The message arrived just after I'd finished helping a customer try on a vintage blazer. I'm leaving you. Moving to Miami with my 20-year-old girlfriend. I already cleared out the joint account. Haha. That was it. No apology. No explanation. Just 3 sentences. Fired off between shopping sprees and cheap thrills. I didn't drop the phone. My hands didn't tremble. My face didn't crack. Instead, I smiled at Mrs. Peterson, who was admiring a silk scarf in front of the mirror. It suits you perfectly, I said, and meant it. I even helped her wrap the purchase in our signature silver paper, tied the ribbon just right, and thanked her for supporting my little boutique. Only after she'd left did I respond. Good luck. That was all Mark deserved. My name is Claire. I'm 30-oid, and today, I received the coldest goodbye in marital history through a text message delivered mid-shift. As if 12 years of marriage were just another thing to abandon. But while he was probably imagining me in a heap on the boutique floor, devastated and shattered, I was quietly locking up for the day as calm as the sky before a storm. The truth is, I'd known. Not everything, but enough. The late nights that didn't match his pay stubs. The gym obsession. The way he suddenly started dressing like a college intern trying to flirt with Gen Z. He thought he was clever. But for the past few months, I'd been watching, waiting, preparing. 3 months ago, I found a receipt from a fancy restaurant for 2 on a night. He'd said he was working late. That same night, I opened a new bank account. Different bank. No shared access. A week later, he suggested we merge our accounts to simplify things. I smiled and agreed. Then I moved every last cent of my personal savings into the new account. Left just enough in the joint one to avoid suspicion. Enough to keep his ego fed. So yes, he emptied the account. But he only took what I wanted him to find. He thought he'd made the first move. He didn't realize I'd already played my hand silently. Carefully. Without drama. And that's the funny thing about men like Mark. They mistake quiet for weakness. They mistake grace for naivety. And they never expect the woman they try to break might already be holding the blueprint to their downfall. Some stories don't begin with love. They begin with loss. Silent revenge is where those stories are safe. If something in Claire's story echoed in your heart, stay a little longer with us. A comment or a quiet subscribe, that's all it takes to help stories like this keep breathing. I closed the boutique store behind me that evening. Not with a bang, but with a quiet click that somehow sounded like a starting gun. Mark thought his text had ended everything. But for me, it simply confirmed what I already knew: it was time. The signs had been piling up for months. Late nights that never lined up with his pay, a password change on his phone right after a happy hour, new clothes, cologne, gym sessions. He wasn't getting in shape. He was trying to rewind the clock. 3 months ago, I found a receipt tucked in his pants pocket. Dinner for 2. At a restaurant we'd only ever admired from afar. That same night, while he snored beside me, I opened a brand new account under a different name. Different bank. Separate everything, just in case. A week later, he looked me in the eye and said, "We should merge our accounts. Make life simpler." I smiled. Sweet. Soft. Of course. Honey. That evening, every cent of my personal savings quietly disappeared into the new account. Only I could touch. The joint account I left just enough. A calculated illusion. 2 months of deposits. Neat and believable. I knew he'd take it eventually. I wanted him to. Because that's how you bait someone like Mark. You let him think he's won. And while he planned his great escape, I documented. I tracked every strange charge. Every late-night Uber receipt. Every hotel booking under a fake name. Every lie he wrapped in cologne and charm. I wrapped in folders and PDFs. I wasn't the victim in this story. I was the archivist. So when he finally made his move, when he sent that smug little message, all I had to do was whisper into the phone, "It's time." My lawyer didn't ask questions. She didn't need to. "The papers are ready," she said. "I'll file first thing tomorrow." "Don't serve him just yet," I added. "Let him think he got away with it." Because sometimes, letting someone walk into their own downfall is the most powerful thing you can do. The next message came just as I was reviewing inventory receipts. "Don't beg. Melissa and I leave tomorrow. I'll send for my stuff later. Melissa." I remembered her fake lashes blinking too fast at the company Christmas party. The way she laughed a little too loudly at Mark's worn-out jokes. The way her hand lingered on his arm just a little too long when she thought no one was watching. She was young, naive, and worst of all, she thought she was winning. I didn't reply. There was no need. Instead, I called my lawyer, the one I'd quietly met with 2 months ago, after I found hotel charges we never took together. She picked up on the first ring. "It's time," I said again. "I figured," she replied. "Everything's ready to file." "Want him served in Miami, not yet," I murmured. "Let him enjoy the illusion a little longer." Another message buzzed in. "I know this is hard. You're not exactly getting younger. At least you have your little shop." I stared at the screen, not in hurt, but in disbelief. My little shop, the boutique I built from scratch, the one that brought in more money than his middle management job ever did, the one I kept separate legally and financially no matter how often he rolled his eyes at me for being paranoid. I smiled. There was a kind of pleasure in letting someone underestimate you. And oh, how thoroughly Mark had underestimated me. I opened the evidence folder on my computer. Each screenshot slotted neatly by date. Each transaction labeled and categorized. I dragged his latest texts into the folder. Marked them admissions. June. Then my phone buzzed again. A gift. BW. I used the joint card to book our flights and hotel. Consider it my parting gift. Lol. Perfect. I didn't even blink. Instead, I dialed the credit card company. "Mrs. Harrison speaking. I need to report fraudulent charges. And cancel the card immediately." "Of course." "Ma'am, can you identify the suspicious activity?" "Yes." 2 first-class tickets to Miami booked today. Hotel reservations at the Royal Palm. And please remove my husband from the account. He no longer has authorization. Do you have documentation of this being unauthorized?" "I do." I forwarded the text messages right then and there. The representative's voice stayed professional, but I could hear the undertone of quiet satisfaction as she replied. "Charges have been reversed? Card canceled. Access denied." Mark and Melissa would show up at the airport expecting champagne. Instead, they'd be handed confusion. He'd meant to humiliate me. What he gave me was ammunition. By morning, the texts had changed in tone. Gone was the smug confidence. In its place, confusion, frustration, and the first signs of panic. "What the hell did you do to our credit card?" "The airline says our tickets are invalid. The hotel canceled our reservation. Answer me." I silenced my phone and slipped it into the drawer. It was Friday, the busiest day at the boutique, and I had a new shipment of designer handbags waiting to be unpacked. Real life doesn't pause for midlife tantrums. Around noon, my phone rang again. This time, it was his mother. I answered out of curiosity more than politeness. "Claire." "Dear," she began, in that soft, faux concerned voice she used when pretending to care. "Mark told us everything. How you've been controlling. How you pushed him away. Now he says you're trying to sabotage his travel plans. That's not very kind." Is it? I pressed the speaker button and set the phone on the display shelf. My hands stayed busy arranging the new collection in the window. He'd chosen his messenger. Now I'd choose the setting. Did he mention? I asked lightly. That he emptied our joint account before leaving silence. Or that he used our shared credit card to book a romantic getaway with his girlfriend. Still nothing. Would you like me to read his text aloud? I offered. Reaching for the evidence folder. She cleared her throat. Well, he may have exaggerated a few things. I did tell him that message about your age was uncalled for. I smiled. Not kindly. Barbara. I've always tried to respect you. But I think we both know this conversation isn't really about concern. It's about damage control. And frankly, my lawyer advised limited contact during proceedings. With Mark, and with his family, another pause. Then a resigned sigh. I see. Well, goodbye. Claire. Goodbye. Barbara. I hung up and went back to my display. A cream-colored handbag caught the morning light just right. Simple. Elegant. Everything Mark's exit wasn't. By late afternoon, the whispers had begun. Mark's sister, Amanda. I was already feeding gossip to mutual friends. Apparently, Mark and Melissa were stuck at a rundown motel near the airport, a far cry from the palm trees and champagne they'd envisioned. He tried using his personal credit cards, but they were maxed out. Another little detail I'd quietly noted months ago. The plan was unraveling faster than he could react. Meanwhile, I was calmly sipping tea at my desk, reviewing inventory numbers. Then, my phone lit up. My lawyer, an update. Emergency hearing scheduled for Monday, she said. Given his admission of draining the joint account and the credit card misuse, we're in a strong position to freeze everything. Has he been served yet? I asked. Not yet. But the address on file has been updated to the motel. There was a pause. Then she added with a smile in her voice. By the way, Melissa's social media is proving very helpful. Oh, I raised an eyebrow. She's been posting all-day photos. Comments. One even mocks your age. It helps establish character and public intent. Just thought you'd like to know. I nodded. Of course she had. They thought they were the main characters in some rebellious love story. But they were just a cautionary tale unfolding in real time. I opened my folder again, dozens of screenshots. Receipts. Messages. Documentation that painted the full picture. This wasn't a sudden break. It was premeditated desertion. Funded by fraud. Then, another text from Mark. You think you're smart? Well, I made copies of all your boutique's financials. Half of that business is mine. I stared at the message, then calmly forwarded it to my lawyer. Subject line: another gift. Let him believe he had leverage. Let him scream into the void. I knew the law. And more importantly, I had the receipts. Sometimes, the best revenge isn't a scream or a slap. It's a folder, a timestamp, a paper trail. It's showing up prepared when the other person only came with ego. Sometimes, you don't have to prove your strength with words. Silence and solid preparation speaks loud enough. Here at Silent Revenge, we believe in the quiet power of being ready. If something in Claire's choices felt necessary, even familiar, leave a comment or quietly hit subscribe, so we can keep telling stories like this for those who need to hear them. Monday arrived like a storm that had been brewing for months. I walked into the courthouse in black slacks, a cream blouse, and quiet confidence. Mark arrived shortly after tight designer jeans clinging uncomfortably to a body they weren't designed for, a navy blazer 2 sizes too small, and an expression that hadn't caught up to the seriousness of the situation. Melissa stayed outside in the hallway, her youth now exposed under the courthouse's fluorescent lights, not as vibrant, Not as charming. Just unsure. No longer Mark's shiny escape fantasy. Just a young woman watching consequences unfold in real time. Inside the courtroom, my lawyer laid everything out like a symphony. One piece at a time. Screenshots. Receipts. Statements. His brag about emptying the account. His own text. Laughing as he charged flights and hotels to our shared card. Proof of pattern. Proof of planning. Proof of prideful fraud. Mark's lawyer cleared his throat. My client acknowledges some impulsive choices, but misses. Harrison's actions were calculated. Vindictive. My lawyer barely blinked. Calculated. Certainly. But not vindictive. She safeguarded her personal assets. She kept impeccable records. She documented his deception. That's not spite. That's smart. The judge looked up from the documents. Mr. Harrison. He addressed Mark directly. Do you deny that you used shared funds to finance a romantic trip with a third party? Mark shifted in his seat. I was just trying to make a clean break. By committing fraud, the judge asked. One brow raised. Mark stammered. It wasn't like that, and now you claim a right to a business your wife built independently, maintained separately, and kept financially distinct throughout the marriage. His lawyer jumped in. The business grew during their union. My client contributed emotionally. Morally moral support. My lawyer cut in smoothly. Shall we revisit the text messages where he referred to it as her little shop? Or the ones where he mocked her age and ambition? The judge had heard enough. All joint assets will be frozen until the dissolution is finalized. Mr. Harrison is ordered to return all withdrawn funds within 24 hours. But that money's gone. Mark blurted. Then I suggest you find a way to return it. The judge said firmly. And Mr. Harrison, this court does not look kindly on those who exploit joint finances for personal indulgences. I didn't smile. Not out of restraint, but because I didn't need to. The click of my heels across the marble floor as I left said more than any grin ever could. Mark had walked in thinking he'd win. He left realizing he'd never even understood the rules. The days after the hearing felt like breathing fresh air after holding it for too long. Word spread quickly. Mark's once proud story of freedom had crumbled into gossip. Women came into my boutique not just to shop, but to show support, sometimes with quiet glances, sometimes with loud laughter about men like that. One customer leaned over the register. Same thing happened to me, she whispered. He thought he'd take everything in the divorce. Didn't expect I'd be smarter? I nodded. Not in pity and recognition. Women knew. We always know. We just don't always prepare in time. But this time, I had. The boutique thrived. Orders from the online store doubled. New customers came in, drawn not just by the clothes, but by the quiet strength behind the counter. Mark, meanwhile, kept trying to claw something back. He filed petition after petition to challenge the settlement. Each one was thrown out. He actually argued that the ha-ha in his text meant he was joking. My lawyer told me over coffee. The judge asked if LOL made theft legal now. She smiled. I did too. And still, the messages came. Mark swinging between blame and pleading. You ruined everything. I didn't mean to hurt you. We can fix this. That business wouldn't exist without me. Each one went into the folder. Each one. Another brick in the wall between us. Melissa. I heard. I wasn't impressed with the reality of Mark in her small apartment. What had once been thrilling secret meetings. Flirty texts now looked like bills. Clutter. And a grown man taking up half her closet. She posted about boundaries and toxic cycles, then removed her relationship status. Quietly, Without fanfare. I didn't celebrate, but I didn't feel sorry either. Mark had chosen his path. He just hadn't expected that I'd walk mine so far, so fast without ever looking back. The grand opening of my second boutique felt different from the first. There was no fear this time. No imposter syndrome. Just the calm satisfaction of knowing I'd built something not just once, but again. The store was buzzing with press and guests. My team bustled around with champagne and silk ribbon gift bags. I was adjusting a row of sunglasses on the display when I felt someone step beside me. Claire, I turned. And there she was. Melissa. Younger than me? Yes. Prettier in that polished, curated way. But smaller now. Not in height, but in presence. Like someone who had learned the hard way. That confidence built on someone else's lies can only last so long. I owe you an apology, she said quietly, eyes flicking around as if she still wasn't sure if she belonged here. I believed everything he told me. That you were cold? That you didn't support his dreams? He made it sound like you'd abandoned him long before he left you. I didn't respond right away, just kept arranging the sunglasses. Order calms the soul. Then I said, those weren't dreams, Melissa. They were escapes. There's a difference. She nodded. I know that now. She told me how he'd moved in with her after the account freeze. How he treated her tiny studio like it was temporary. How he criticized the size of her closet. Suggested she take out a loan for a bigger place. I actually laughed. Not mockingly, just knowingly. Let me guess. I said. He had big plans. As soon as his crypto went up, as soon as that promotion came through, as soon as someone else believed in him more than you ever could. Her smile was sad, but real. Exactly. Everything was always just about to get better, but it never did. She said she was dating someone now her age. They shared bills, laughed about their student loans, had no grand illusions, but something solid, something mutual. After she left, my assistant leaned over and whispered, "Was that the girlfriend I looked at the door?" "No," I said. That was just another woman who learned the same lesson I did. By the time the third boutique opened, no one was asking me about the divorce anymore. Reporters came with questions about market trends, supply chains, digital strategy. Not heartbreak. Not betrayal. Melissa stopped being the girlfriend. She became a client. Regular. Kiet. We never mentioned the past. We didn't need to. Women young and old started asking for advice. How did you protect your business? What would you do differently? I told them the truth. The best protection is preparation. And always trust your instincts. Especially when they whisper. I was invited to panels. Featured in magazines. Not for surviving betrayal, but for building something that couldn't be taken away. Mark, meanwhile, kept trying to reopen the past. Another petition, another plea to revisit the settlement. Each time, the judge said no. Each time, the court costs grew. He filed again. My lawyer texted me one morning. Judge dismissed it immediately. He has to pay fees this time. Thought you'd enjoy that. I smiled, not out of pettiness, but because peace tastes better earned. Mark's mother called again. One last time. Not to plead, not to defend. To thank you, she said, for teaching our family something we didn't want to learn, about enabling bad behavior, about making excuses for cruelty. He's still living at home, still blaming the world, but we've stopped defending him. That's your legacy. Claire? Not bitterness, but boundaries. I thought about that word. Legacy. Not something inherited, but something built. Intentionally. Brick by brick. Choice by choice. In silence, 2 years after Mark's little text message tried to shatter my life. I stood on stage at a women's business conference, not as someone who had been left, but as someone who had built. The topic wasn't divorce. It was resilience, preparation, independence. During the Q&A, a woman in the audience raised her hand. My husband says I'm being paranoid that marriage means sharing everything. What would you say to that? I smiled. Not bitter. Just steady. My ex-husband said the same thing. I answered. Right up until he tried to take half my business. Trust your instincts. Protection isn't paranoia. It's strategy. After the panel, I was approached by a small crowd of young women, some entrepreneurs. Some just curious. They weren't asking how I survived. They were asking how I thrived. The boutique chain had grown to 5 locations. Our staff now numbered over 30. We were featured in national magazines, recognized not just for style, but for systems, structure, and smart leadership. And Mark, I heard through a friend that he finally moved out of his parents' house into a studio apartment above a garage. The promotion never came. The crypto crashed. And the women he tried to impress had long since unfollowed. His dating profile still read young at heart, but the photo was clearly taken years ago. The caption said, "Looking for someone who believes in second chances." Meanwhile, Melissa, the original Melissa, had started her own social media consulting firm. She came into my first boutique once, looked around, and said, "You inspired me. You showed me what it looks like when a woman doesn't break, but builds." And me, I still kept that original text framed in my office. The one Mark sent, thinking it would destroy me. "Have fun with your little shop." It said, "At least it'll keep you busy in your old age." Underneath it, I hung my latest business award and a small plaque that simply read, "Success is the best revenge." The 5th anniversary of my original boutique arrived quietly. No balloons, no speeches, just gratitude, and the steady hum of a business that had outlived gossip, betrayal, and every smug prediction of my failure. The store was full of longtime customers, women who'd been there since the beginning. A few even whispered, "I came in the week after everything blew up. Just wanted to support you." And they stayed, not for sympathy, but because they saw something in the shop they wanted in themselves, resilience. I stepped away from the register to check a new shipment when I noticed a familiar face by the door. Mark's mother. Uninvited, but wearing one of our silk dresses, the kind only regulars know how to style. She waited until the crowd thinned before walking up to me. "I saw Mark yesterday," she said. "He was talking about his glory days, about how everything would have been different if you hadn't turned the courts against him." She looked at me, not with accusation, with fatigue. "He still doesn't understand," she continued, "that he didn't lose everything in the divorce? He threw it away." I said nothing. There was nothing left to say. She sighed. "Anyway, I just wanted to see it for myself. What you built. What he never valued." Her eyes swept the boutique, the shelves, the warm lighting, the calm staff. Then she nodded, almost to herself. "You're not the woman he described. You never were." I let her words settle, then gave a small smile. Because I wasn't who Mark said I was, but I also wasn't who I used to be. A young employee, ironically also named Melissa, approached with a question about inventory. As I answered, I caught my reflection in the glass. Strong posture, steady hands, clear eyes. Not a woman aging, a woman arriving. I once thought the end of my marriage was the end of my story. Turns out, it was just the end of a chapter I had outgrown. Every boutique I opened after that became more than a business. Each one was a declaration I survived. I rebuilt. And I thrived, not in spite of him, but without him. The young women I hired began asking me questions. Not about fashion, but about life. How do you know when to leave? How do you start over? What do you do when someone underestimates you? I answered. The only way I knew how. By showing up. By building solid systems. By paying attention to the numbers. And the people? And myself. Mark faded into rumor. The kind people mention in passing. With a shrug. Did you hear he's trying another startup? Moved in with some girl. Again. But no one cared. The world had moved on. And so had I. One day, while organizing old files in the office, I came across a backup folder labeled Diverse 2023. I hovered over it for a moment, then right-clicked. Delete. I didn't need it anymore. The proof? The pain, none of it served me now. Not because I forgave, but because I didn't need to carry it to prove I survived. I replaced the file with something better, a folder labeled Expansion 2026. Inside plans for 3 new stores. A podcast. A mentorship program for young female entrepreneurs. Because sometimes the best revenge is turning a bitter ending into someone else's new beginning. And the story wasn't over. Not even close. I don't think revenge is always loud. Sometimes, it's as quiet as closing a door you no longer need to open. As simple as answering, "I'm doing well," and meaning it. Mark thought he was writing the end of my story. But he only lit the match. I chose what to build with the fire. I didn't become stronger because of what he did. I became stronger because I stopped waiting for him to see my worth. I saw it first. And maybe that's the point. Not to hurt them back. Not to win, but to rise so far that one day you don't even think about them at all. If this story made you pause, even for a moment, to breathe, to reflect, to remember what you're capable of, then stay with us here at Silent Revenge. You don't have to say much. A small comment. A subscribe. It's enough to help stories like this keep living.